Who was the dumbest person you ever met? How did you know? Dang it, late to the party. Anyway, I was a cook a few years ago, and this particular busy night we ran out of lobster mac and cheese. This one waitress could not understand how this was possible, and just kept nagging and nagging in disbelief. I got annoyed to the point that I told her the reason for this was that there was a shortage of people with small enough hands to milk lobster's tiny nipples, hence a worldwide shortage of lobster milk to make that dish. I had to come clean with her when she started telling this to customers and they demanded to speak with a manager. My former boss was worried that the island of Manhattan would sink with all the extra visitors for New Year's and the ball dropping. She thought islands float, and when she found out that wasn't true she thought it was so funny that she told everyone the story. She was later fired for withholding a pay raise from someone on her team because he didn't accept her sexual advances. He had the texts to prove it. One time my now ex-girlfriend was watching Maury Povich, one of those paternity test episodes with the classic "you are not the father" moment, and she turns to me and says if we ever have a baby and I found out I'm not the mother, I'll kill you. Thankfully we didn't end up reproducing. I was working retail at the time, and this lady walks in and asks me to tell her when it is 10:15 a.m. she needs to catch a bus. We were slow, so I obliged. 10:15 a.m. rolls around and I tell her, so she drops her stuff and runs out to get the bus. 5 minutes later she comes back, it's scowling, and she then lectures me on how to tell time. How much is a quarter? 25 cents. So why would you tell me 10:15 a.m. is 10:15 a.m.? It's 10:25 a.m. He had just purchased a new high-powered BB gun. We had just finished shooting it in the backyard when he points the barrel at my face and pulls the trigger several times. I tell him to stop being an idiot and he just laughs and says it's not loaded. Then the moron puts the barrel in his mouth and pop shoots a BB right through his tongue and into his uvula. Edit for those asking why it shot him and not me. I was sitting down, so the end of the barrel was at a downward angle. When Genius shot himself, the barrel was at an upward angle, causing the last BB to roll down to the back of the ammo tube and into the chamber. I asked a temp at work to weigh a couple of lever arch files for postage. She came back and told me they were 65 kilograms. I asked if it were possible that it was 6.5 kilograms, but she insisted it wasn't. We argued about it for a good 5 minutes. It wasn't until I asked her how much she weighed, 59 kilograms, that it finally twigged that these two small folders couldn't possibly weigh more than her. Few years ago in Australia, Coke changed their bottle to be a bit narrower and taller to suit less plastic. Both bottles were 600 milliliters. Girl in my class at university was adamant that the change wasn't to reduce plastic, but so they could put less Coke in to save money. I know they are both 600 milliliters, but the new one has less Coke in it. A friend of mine is a sweet guy, but is overweight and balding and quite frankly, not very attractive in the face. Well, one day he lets us know that he has met a girl and she might be the one. He's in his late 20s for reference. Well, I've met some of the jewels he's hooked up with in the past, so I wasn't expecting too much. Finally meet this girl, and she is drop dead gorgeous, and has a body that is incredible. I talked to her for a while, and she is super friendly and outgoing. I'm stoked for my boy. He found the best he's ever gonna find. Anyway, the night progresses, and the new couple starts talking about their plans for an upcoming trip to New Mexico, and she starts telling us how excited she is, because she has never gone to another country before. I laughed a bit, and realized she was dead serious. My friend just looked at me, and shook his head, and I knew that he knew. She was dumb as a freaking rock, but she was his dumb freaking rock. FWIW, he helped her get her passport. White girl didn't think she could get pregnant because the guy was Mexican. Swear on my life. My wife wanted to meet an old friend from school she hadn't seen for about 20 years. We went to dinner, and he brought his wife, who he met 2 months ago, who was a male entertainer, and her 2 kids. He was white, she was black, and he spent the whole night trying to start crap with people for making racist comments about their relationship behind their back. They weren't. When we finally got into talking, He told me about 9 jump points that exist to get off the earth. I thought to myself, oh boy, a flat earther. I've never met a real one before. But no, that's not what he was talking about. That would have been so much better than what he was talking about. He said there are 9 jump points on Earth that are essentially wormholes to other planets, and that there is one in New York City that goes to Mars, and that the American government has already colonized Mars and is hiding it from the people. And he was dead serious. Girl in my class asked the professor if other countries have moons too. We hired a girl a couple years ago. I told her where the manager's office was her first day. Second day, she asked me where the manager's office was, so I walked her to the door. Third day, she asks me where it is again. Our manager chewed out the girl who trained our new recruit for not teaching the job properly. The trainer pulled out her phone and showed the manager a picture of the girl wearing the uniform backwards and said, look at this. This is untrainable. New girl got fired about 3 weeks later for stealing the product because she thought she got it for free because she was an employee. Edit. Some of you are kind enough to give her the benefit of the doubt about not finding the office. Unfortunately, this office was located on the second floor, which consisted of a hallway with a single door and nothing else. It wasn't possible to get lost. I live in southern Spain. I once met a girl from the US who was here on some kind of exchange program. When I asked her how did she like Spain so far, she said, I'm loving it. I just don't know why the plane took so long to get here. I mean, we are just a bit below Mexico. I don't know why the flight was so long. Then I told her that we were in Europe, and she didn't believe me. Her reply was, Europe? It can't be. Everyone speaks Spanish, so we must be somewhere near Mexico for sure. She was in uni. I still don't know how or why. My ex-sister-in-law is hands down the dumbest person I've ever encountered. There's literally a plethora of freaking insanely stupid things she said over the years, but I'll use the one that almost made me slap the taste out of her mouth. I had my first son back in 2001, and while I was pregnant she asked me if I was going to breastfeed, to which I replied that I was. She then asked, even if it's a girl? And I said of course. She then proceeded to tell me that it's perfectly fine to breastfeed boys, but doing so with girls is creepy and could make the child a lesbian, because they get the feel of a breast and will remember it and want that sexually. To say that I was stunned by her thought process is an understatement. I asked her what she thought people did before formula was invented, and she said cow's milk. And before bottles were invented it was a rag soaked in cow's milk. Side note, she had 3 daughters and wouldn't allow her husband to change their diapers or bathe them. While visiting the Lincoln Memorial, I ran into an older couple discussing the inscription of the Gettysburg Address on the walls. The woman asked the man what this was in reference to, and if it was about America, and the man said something to the effect of, no, this couldn't be about America. We never had any slaves here in our country. It must be about what happened in country X. These were 2 Americans. She had a mug from Disneyland with the name Ronald on it. She thought you just picked a mug of the name you like, and not your actual freaking name. Was working at a grocery store over a decade ago. I wouldn't call the kid dumb, because he just didn't know. It's more of a funny thing. He was new and the manager asked him to face the store. When he asked what he could do, facing means you make sure the aisles look nice and neat, and that the product is pulled forward and visibly facing you as you walk down the aisle. The kid couldn't be found until someone told the manager one of the workers was just standing in the parking lot facing the store. I will never forget that. I had a guy at work tell me that Benjamin Franklin was the 100th president because he's on the $100 bill. I remember proofreading a paper for a freshman my roommate had the hots for. It was on Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, but somehow this freshman didn't catch that it was satire. The opening lines of the paper are burned into my memory. Eating children would not be a good thing to do. In fact, we could say it would be bad. I know a guy who thinks the specialty he drinks negates the negative health effects of his pack-a-day smoking habit. Girl in my class asked the professor if other countries have moons too.